but I got to say New York maybe as well. We've talked about Lee Zeldin and the governor's race. There's also a lot of critical House races that may be part of this red wave. I want to bring in the Republican nominee at one of those House seats. George Santos is his name. He's been on the show before. He joins us now again. Good morning, George.
Good morning, guys.
You know, we talked to a lot of people on this show about the red wave, and they're there. You can see these polls, whether it was Monmouth yesterday, all kinds of others saying that this is really forming, that the Republicans are going to take the House, maybe even the Senate. But I wonder, what are you seeing in New York? Because when we ask people, what about New York? It looks like maybe Zeldin can win that race. It looks like maybe George Santos can win this. It looks like maybe there'll be some pickups there. And they say, New York is so Democrat. Are you sure? Are you sure? What are you seeing on the ground? What's happening in New York with the crime, with the inflation? What are voters telling you?
Well, Ed, I tell this to everybody. A lot of people just 2 days ago were like, well, I don't know about the red wave. Montana's moving favorable towards Democrats. I said, well, look, here's the problem. New York State's been under one-party rule now for 5 years almost between the local government and the federal government. The reality is we're sick and tired of all the oppressive, arbitrary legislation that's coming out of the local house and the federal government. So the reality is the sentiment on the ground is common sense. The red wave forms and starts in New York State. The majority to the House runs through New York, and we're going to deliver probably 11 to 12 members of Congress from the Republican Party for the first time since the Tea Party wave when Lee Zeldin got elected on the tail end of that movement. And now he's going to become our governor because Kathy Hochul has proven to be inept, incompetent, and corrupt. Then New Yorkers are tired. We deserve better. Look, this is a beautiful state. We don't want to see corporations leaving and jobs going away and businesses shutting down. We want to see the state booming. We're the Empire State. As we like to say, we're the best part of our country. I know that I get a lot of hate for saying that, but the reality is everything happens in New York. Everybody wants to be in New York, and we deserve better. Mayor Adams wants to talk about a brand. Well, I think he needs to reconsider whatever that brand is, because the brand that he's set forward for the city and the brand that this governor set forward for the state, it's just tragic, and I won't stand for it. That's why we're going to form the red wave, and we're going to go all the way to November 8th and win it all, including Governor for Lee Zeldin.
Is there any concern about, there's been this mass exodus from New York, all of these voters have fled to states like Florida and Texas after New York has gotten so bad, and then we see, how can these people even vote for these candidates? You see, the likes of Fetterman, and then you also see like AOC acting like a teenager and losing her mind. I called her Jenny from the block earlier, just because I feel like she got back to her teenage street roots, when she was questioned. The voters leaving, is that going to be an issue? The people that are left there, are they just so used to voting Democrat that they'll just vote anybody in? Are there any concerns there for that lack of population?
Well, let's start by this. AOC wouldn't know the block if you pointed it out to her. So there's no AOC from the block here. I can guarantee you that much. My question to her as always was, how was prep school graduation? Must have been really fun. But anyway, getting back to real issues. Look, let's just talk about what's going on, right? 30% of Democrats are not going to vote Democrat based on every single poll that's come out this year so far. And look, polls are fungible, they're weird, but what happens is the ground feeling. I was campaigning with soon-to-be Governor Lee Zeldin in one of the largest street fairs in the Northeast called Oyster Fest up in Teddy Roosevelt's neck of the woods in Oyster Bay on Long Island this past weekend. And I got to tell you, Democrats all over the place are saying, I'm a Democrat, but I'm voting for you guys. The party's lost their mind. I don't even recognize that anymore. They're coddling criminals. Look, the people are not with this criminal nonsense. Bail reform, this criminal justice reform in the state of New York has failed the American people. They're coddling criminals and putting law-abiding citizens at risk, and we can't stand for it. And you know what? I'm proud to receive the support of Democrats that are going to be voting for us. I'm proud to see Lee Zeldin has elected Democrats supporting him, because that just shows that there is no Democrat Party left. They folded into this socialist movement and this ideology of Marxism, and they've abandoned their constituents. They've abandoned their conservative Democrats, and they're flocking to us in the GOP. And we're becoming the party of common sense, the party that's going to deliver blue-collar man's agenda so that every single New Yorker and every single American can prosper and live the American dream like we all have.
George, we've got just under a minute. I'm looking at our live chat on Getter. Ultra Wilson Sharon saying, Tina Forte, Lee Zeldin, and Santos for New York. Audience cheering you on. You mentioned crime. I had dinner with a friend last night whose mother still lives on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which used to be very, very safe, as you know. And he said a couple months ago she was mugged about 72nd and 3rd Avenue. Broad daylight. And you hear these stories time and time again. David Brooks, New York Times today, saying Democrats have a crime problem, and Trump was right about that. He warned about that in 2020. In the final minute we have, is that going to be the pivotal issue just as much as inflation in these races in New York? Because we're seeing New York, it's just falling apart.
Look, inflation and crime are the number one driving forces, and then you add the cost of energy to the mix. It just really, quite frankly, stirs everybody up. Look, you want to talk about being mugged? I was mugged on 55th and 6th Avenue at 3:30 in the afternoon last year in the summer. Coming out of my office, going into the parking garage across the street, I was knocked on my butt by two guys. They ran with my briefcase, with my shoes. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, it's violent out there. And nobody ever caught them because there was nowhere to catch them. The reality is Americans deserve better. New Yorkers deserve better. That's why I'm going to take New York's 3rd Congressional District, and I'm going to bring true representation to the people of New York's 3rd District. And finally, they'll get to see what leadership looks like. Thank you, guys.
All right, we're looking forward to that.